Dr. Disrespect posted this tweet where he talked about extracting an in-game item worth $100,000 and referred to those in opposition as brain dead. Now, of course, the two-time is talking about NFTs, and on one hand, I understand what Dr. Disrespect was trying to say, but his approach, calling anyone who opposes his view brain dead, has become this go-to defense for many involved with NFTs. They believe anyone who criticizes it is an idiot and simply doesn't understand technology. Now, I myself am what you would call an NFT optimist. I'm hyper aware of the many crooked ways grifters use them to enrich themselves. I'm in agreement with the side that points and laughs at NFT bros who think their anime dinosaurs are going to change the world, but also very interested in what the technology could be used for if applied correctly, because let's be honest, every single time new technology is introduced, there will always be a group of people who use it for ill-gotten gains. For example, social media scams and email phishing exploits still exist, but it doesn't mean we throw the entire internet into the garbage, right? So in this video, I wanted to discuss Dr. Disrespect's tweets, the response to them, and why games media have pushed NFT negativity so far. Gamers won't even take a second to consider that a better future might be sitting right under their noses. And if you hate NFTs, you think they're all a scam, which honestly 99% of the projects you hear about really are, I need you to stick around because I want you and I to talk this through together, because I'm not here to defend all the problems NFTs carry, because most of these crypto discords are just a digital version of Forex MLM living rooms, but we need to talk about how our current digital system in gaming isn't any better. So let's start with the obvious response to that Dr. Disrespect tweet. Crafting a multiplayer game where real money is at stake is a recipe for disaster. Aimbots and wall hacks are something that billion-dollar corporations such as Activision Blizzard have yet to fully overcome, so I don't expect this small team to crack that code. Dr. Disrespect is right. Playing for real stakes would make for great viewership, further increasing the risk versus reward system in extraction shooters. But no one would be willing to assume that risk if there's a potential for cheating, and even in a fair scenario, gamers will log complaints that they lost an NFT due to lag or a bug. This simply won't work. Plus, toxicity is already rampant in multiplayer games. Involving real money assets will only make it worse and increase the likelihood that digital beef will spill over into the physical world. And as a streamer who understands firsthand the annoyance that is stream sniping,
pathetic. And they're sitting there on their video game system, stream sniping the fucking two-time. Because they got nothing else!
You think Doc would be able to see the glaring issue of walking around with $100,000 worth of equipment. Now, let's discuss his motivation behind this tweet. A game he's currently working on called Deadrop, which is set to be a vertical extraction multiplayer shooter that is still very early in development. Now, many gamers were excited about this game up until the studio the Doc helped found, Midnight Society, uttered the no-no word, NFT, and many instantly called the game a scam. But in its current form, the team at Midnight Society may have actually built a better version of early access that players are currently more than happy to pay for. According to the developers, once released, the game will be free to play and will not require an NFT to play once it's released. You can unlock items to a centralized account, as is commonplace in similar games, but you can also choose to convert it to a decentralized account where you have control over the items you unlock and can choose to sell them on the open market. Now, currently, the only way to access the game is by owning a Founders Pass NFT. Last year, players could apply for one, and if they were chosen, they could purchase one for $50. There were 10,000 passes sold, and each one gives owners access to snapshots or updated builds of the game every 6 weeks, so the team can collect feedback. It also gives them voting rights on future features and mechanics such as weapon reload times or maps, and each pass has a unique avatar and call sign that will eventually be implemented into the game. And since only 10,000 will exist, it gives holders a unique asset that will theoretically grow alongside the game that they're helping to build. So at one point, 10,000 players were able to pay $50 to play a game early, help build it with actual voting rights for future features, get priority access to events and merchandise, a unique skin, all wrapped up in something that they actually own, something that could be transferred. Now look, I personally don't dabble in early access games, as I'm not interested in paying a company $50 to alpha test for them and act as a focus group without a share of the company in my pocket. But this is what millions of gamers do right now. Sons of the Forest, and no slight to that team at all because it's an amazing game that released in a pretty solid state, so I'm just using it as an example, sold 2 million copies in a day for $30 each for an early access version to the game, and fans were more than happy to pay it because they believe in the project, even though it can take a while to release a final version. The original Forest took 4 years to leave early access. At least with Deadrop's early access, I own my access. I can sell it if I don't want to support it anymore, and even if a profit wasn't involved, it already has a leg up over the current system. Early access games on Steam are subject to the same refund policy as full games, so if you play it for 2 hours, but by the third you realize you'd rather wait for a final release, it's too late. Early believers in this project, as of the recording of this video, can sell their pass for $700, meaning owners can choose to sell now and walk away with a minimum 1,400% return on their investment. They've even teased a system in which Founders Pass owners can gain residual income simply for being a holder if this game takes off. But right there lies a dilemma with all of this, that big old if. NFTs remain a game of hot potato, and unless you minted it from the very beginning, you want to make sure you're not holding on to one when this all explodes. If Midnight Society delivers and this becomes a must-play multiplayer game in a few years, I could easily see one of these Founders Passes selling for over 5 figures. If it fails or the developers decide to shut the game down, some idiot will be stuck with a receipt to absolutely nothing. But even if it doesn't shut down, competition in this space is fierce, and chances are that at some point the game will hit a peak and the value of those NFTs will fall with it. So buying in at any point is a gamble. Now, Doc himself doesn't help his own argument. A Twitter user asked, why would there be a need for a blockchain to store digital games? And the doc responded, quote, imagine having a digital collectible that has functionality in a completely different game that comes out 7 years later. This bullet point has become word vomit that NFT defenders regurgitate into one another's mouths without ever pondering the semantics of this idea. Like, why would EA go through all the trouble to implement Call of Duty gun skins from 7 years ago into Apex Legends? Like, what the hell would they get out of that? I think realistically, NFTs can maybe one day serve as proof of ownership that can then unlock a cosmetic in a game, like how sometimes a save file for one game would unlock items for its sequel. Theoretically, it could also be a good way to capitalize on a competitor shutting down. So when Knockout City announced its end of service, I could tell that community, hey, if you come over to my game and have one of their NFTs in your wallet, you can unlock an exclusive skin. But past that, the way NFT bros try to sell this cross-compatible future is closer to a dream. Now, many people bullish on NFTs are baffled by how resistant gamers are to them, and I think that's because the majority of gaming outlets only run stories focused on the negative use cases for the technology rather than opening a dialogue in which we discuss why digital ownership is something we desperately need. And it's not about money or profit. It's not about being paid to play games or finding a $100,000 gun. It's because we need a solution to digital ownership before it gets too late. Many games encourage players to spend money buying skins, cosmetics, items, battle passes. Now, detractors love to say that many NFT projects are nothing but a receipt that points to a JPEG. But what's funny is that this is how digital ownership works in its current state. When you spend $19 on that new One Punch Man Doomfist skin, you don't own it. You get a digital receipt that must be regularly checked to prove that you rented it. If you get banned or if Blizzard decides to shut down Overwatch 2, it's no longer yours. If you decide you don't want to play the game anymore, there's nothing you can do with that skin because you don't own it. And the same goes for digital games. The reason why I keep an open mind while rightfully criticizing NFTs when necessary is because they represent a solution to digital ownership, and there will likely come a day in the future where home consoles will no longer ship with disk drives and we'll all be forced to buy digital. Gamers right now are paying $70 for a receipt to access The Last of Us Part 1, and they have zero agency over it. If I own that game physically, I could trade it, I could give it away, or I can choose to sell it. have true ownership over it. So is this such a far-fetched idea to bring digital items closer to their physical counterparts? If I played Fortnite for years and decided to switch over to Apex Legends, wouldn't you like to be able to sell your skins and recoup some of that cost? Is this such an insane proposition? What's crazy is that there already exists a gray market for all of this, third-party sites where you can buy and sell digital items and accounts. So the demand is there. Wouldn't you want a more trusted, secure way of doing this? And look, no system is perfect. Many NFT defenders point out that if a game shuts down, you still own those skins and they can be used in other games. But of course, that would all depend on publishers. Even within their own ecosystem, Activision would never guarantee that a skin for this year's game would be usable in the 2035 version of Call of Duty, because a lot of things can change in a decade, and it will require a lot of work to ensure thousands of skins are usable in every future iteration. And even if you were to try to sell that skin as a collectible, you need a buyer, and it's the market that dictates its value, not you. But even in those scenarios, having ownership over a digital item is much better than the alternative. Now, many have said, well, that all sounds great, but why do we need a blockchain to do all this? And they usually bring up Steam's marketplace as an example, where players can securely buy and sell items such as Counter-Strike skins, but that's a closed marketplace. You can buy Steam credit to purchase items, but you can't cash out any of the money you make from selling them. And when you do sell, Steam takes a cut. You don't have full ownership over those items. It's like buying a physical game from GameStop, but if you want to sell it, you and the buyer must meet in that GameStop. Your payment comes in the form of store credit, and GameStop takes a 30% cut of that sale. We need to get digital ownership as close as we can to physical ownership. I can trade a Charizard for a Blue Eyes White Dragon, even though they're from two different card games. In the future, you want this to work in a way where you can give a friend a Call of Duty gun skin in exchange for a Hanzo skin. This is why many find it hard to understand why gamers are so opposed to even the idea of digital ownership. And the world that I just pitched isn't perfect. I'm sure there are holes I haven't seen. But the alternative, where we continue to pay full price for things we don't own, isn't really a positive move either now, is it? I just feel like so many gamers place their hands over their ears and refuse to even have a conversation about this, while our digital consumer protection is non-existent. About a month ago, we saw a bunch of live service games shut down and only Rumbleverse issued refunds. Apex Legends Mobile operated for a year, and EA didn't issue refunds simply because the user agreement didn't require it. They could have at least found a way to let gamers transfer purchases or equivalent currency value over to the PC version, but that would have been extra work, so why bother if you don't legally have to? Not even campaign games are safe, as Crossfire X is deleting the single-player portion of the game and are not forced to issue refunds. Nintendo has been able to sell the original Super Mario Bros. Multiple times because you don't own the digital copy you bought on the Wii that couldn't be transferred to the 3DS, but that new version you bought couldn't be transferred to the Wii U, so you bought it again, but then that version couldn't be transferred to the Switch, and now you have to pay them a monthly or yearly fee to rent it. And look, NFTs on the blockchain are far from perfect. The environmental impact alone is a definite cause for concern. But cloud gaming consumes more energy than local gaming, but that doesn't make gamers any less excited for that upcoming Kojima cloud game or stop them from streaming GeForce Now games on the go. I mean, am I delusional? Is the open discussion of this crazier than the fact that every single game and skin we currently buy is not actually ours? And look, implementing a marketplace, even if it was just cosmetics, can have a negative impact on the game if not executed correctly. Whenever you introduce a for-profit system, many will find ways to exploit and automate the process. But here's the thing that I need gamers to understand. NFTs and the idea of digital in-game marketplaces isn't going anywhere. And I guarantee you, every major publisher is currently researching this space. PlayStation already has patents on file. And if you think this future is impossible, just look at Valve. The first big Western game to incorporate loot boxes on a major scale was Team Fortress 2 in late 2010. In 2012, they launched the Steam Marketplace beta, and then in 2013, Valve introduced the concept of battle passes in Dota 2. They're the most beloved publisher that has actually pioneered the very money-sucking ideals that gamers have grown to hate, and two of these three concepts have become commonplace in our industry. So the chances of going 3 for 3 are kind of high. because Valve makes a lot of money off of that marketplace. But the thing that makes it so appealing to other publishers is that the bulk of it is user generated. So you guys make the stuff and we'll just split the profits. It's the digital Uber model. I don't own the car, but I'll build an infrastructure for you to monetize it, and I'll take a cut for my trouble. It's time we demand ownership of our digital items, and some publishers have already been open to the idea. Robot Cash is a marketplace that gives publishers a 95-5 split. After a game has been in the store for 90 days, buyers are able to sell their copy and get 25% back that goes to their original form of purchase. It isn't perfect, but it's still better than the current system. Look, NFTs have become synonymous with scams and pyramid schemes for good reasons, but I view this technology more as a catalyst for the conversation we really need to be having within our industry, and that is that publishers need to give us ownership over the digital games and items we spend our hard-earned cash on. Comment down below your thoughts about all of this, and please like and subscribe to help the channel, and thank you so much for watching.